Hello, darling. Can you not sleep? It's alright. It's alright. I'm here. Your father's here. Don't worry, your mother's nearby. She'll be around shortly. It's time to go to sleep now, okay? I know. How about I tell you a story? It's a story I've been waiting to tell you for a long time. It's about a prince from a faraway kingdom known as Elgon. He was born to a king and a queen of noble class, known for their conquest and riches. Even though the king was powerful, he was also quite stubborn. The king believed that a ruler had to be tough, ruthless, and uncompromising. He intended to make the prince a great ruler as he was. When the prince was 5 years of age, the king banished his mother from the castle, as her usefulness had run its course, according to the king. The prince missed his mother, and didn't understand why she had to leave. He didn't get to see her as much anymore, and the king made his son endure a difficult education, learning about the family's history, about monarchy, about trading, and about combat. He never let up or gave him time to rest. "No one stops being a king in Elgon," he would tell the prince. After a while, the prince resented his father for being hard on him, and he did not want to be a king like him. However, he always excelled at sword fighting and combat. After such time, he befriended fellow soldiers and guards during his training. They were the closest friends he had. When he turned 18, he decided it was time to prove himself to the people of Elgon. He had heard several rumors of distant lands and vast creatures. The prince decided that exploring these lands and slaying these beasts would give him fame and glory. It would also allow him to leave the kingdom and become his own man. Along with his compatriots, they found many treasures, ensuring Elgon's continued wealth. They also encountered several creatures, from great ogres to legendary chimeras. The prince loved going on these quests, even though his father wanted him to stay at the kingdom and learn more about being a proper king. He was more concerned about his line ending if the prince was killed. But the prince's skills, along with his compatriots, kept him alive. The prince was popular in the kingdom and had met several women throughout the years. But he did not want to be with any woman. The prince wanted to be with someone special. Someone who loved him for him, not for his status or wealth. One night, at a pub, he heard one of the villagers mention a faraway land called Vandan, a great kingdom once ruled by the Giants, who went extinct centuries ago. And inside the castle lay a princess, kept under a sleeping curse, who would only awaken by true love's first kiss. The prince could not contain his excitement. This would be the special woman he's been looking for. A princess that would be forever grateful for saving her from the curse. He had to see if this story was true. And it was. It truly was. Days later, he and his compatriots journeyed to the land of Vandan. It took many weeks to reach it, and his friends were overwhelmed by the giant plants. When they reached the castle, they discovered that the land was overrun by goblins, the vicious beings that fester in abandoned lands and fortresses like cockroaches. Even though their numbers were great, the prince and his men slayed the creatures in the castle. Unfortunately, they lost several men until only the prince, his second in command, and his squire remained. They pressed on, entering the giant castle, until they found the room where the princess lay asleep. The prince found her very beautiful, and with encouragement from his compatriots, he kissed her lips. But then something happened. The princess grew 150 feet high and crushed the bed. The princess was not human, but a giant, the last of the Vandanians. The prince and his friends were scared, as they knew giants to be bloodthirsty killers. So they ran from the castle. But they were followed by the giant princess a day later. She told them that she meant them no harm, and told the prince that he was her true love, as his kiss saved her from the curse. The prince, however, didn't believe this was so, and told her that they couldn't be together. Heartbroken by the prince's words, the princess left the prince and his compatriots. As the prince and his compatriots made their way back to Elgon, they were caught by a fearsome warlord who hated the Elgonite king. The prince was taken prisoner and locked in the dungeons, with his second-in-command killed by the warlord. And the prince was saddened at the loss of his friend, all alone with no one to help him. Little did the prince know that his squire had avoided being caught by the warlord and ventured back to Vandan to find the giant princess. But by the time he reached her, the squire was attacked and killed by the goblins. Touched by the squire's bravery, she buried the boy and traveled to the warlord's fortress to save the prince. She tore down the fortress, defeating the warlord and his men with ease, and freed the prince from the dungeons. The prince did not understand why she would risk her life for him, having been so mean to her. The princess then confessed her love for him, and he finally returned her affection. The prince realized that he was a fool, scared of something greater than himself. But this was the woman he wanted to be with, a loving person who loved him for him, not for his status or wealth. The prince was finally happy as he had found his true love. Days later, the princess took the prince back to Elgon to tell the families of his compatriots what happened, and to inform his father about their new ally. But the king wouldn't listen. He ordered the giant princess to leave. It was then that the prince decided to leave Elgon and return to Vandan to live with the princess. The prince loved her more than anything, and couldn't imagine living life without her. The princess was touched by the prince's devotion, and together they returned to the castle and fixed it up, bringing it back to its former glory. And together they became the new rulers of Vandan. Not long after they settled, other people had left Elgon to join the kingdom of Vandan. They saw the giant princess as more sensible and less tyrannical than the king, and requested permission to live there. The princess was delighted to have more people to live in her land, and before long, a new village known as Rismark came to be. The prince and princess eventually married, and lived happily together, until the day they were blessed with their first child, you. Even though you're half giant, you'll be as tall as your mother. That just means there's more of you to love. As much as I love your mother. Our people will love you too. You'll grow up to be a great ruler one day. They may be cautious, as any human would be around a giant. But they'll see that you're not like the giants of old. That you're a kind and gentle giantess. Like your mother, the queen. Soon, many stories will be told of you, and perhaps of your siblings.
You're the sweetest man I've ever known, Alvin.
Thank you, Valerie. I think she's asleep now. We should probably get to bed. Good night, Belina. Sweet dreams.